Hang on, I need to get the Mario theme ready. Hang on a sec.
No, you don't. No, you don't. No. Hello and welcome to episode 615 of the Player One podcast for Tuesday, August 21st, 2018. I'm your host, Chris Johnston. With me, as always, from Canada, Mr. Greg Seward.
Feeling deceived.
I don't know what you're talking about here.
Oh, God.
And joining me from the great state of California, the host of the Keel Hauled podcast, Mr. Logan Keller. Hello.
Ahoy, matey. How are you?
You feel bamboozled, Greg?
Yep.
Feel like
I
somebody
wondered why
just
you were
placed
so
an
quiet
explosive
about if we
barrel
were
on the
gonna
lower
have
deck and blew it up.
I wondered why you were so quiet about whether or not we were having a guest host tonight.
Right.
Normally when Phil backs out at the last minute, which is always,
I
immediately get a message from CJ saying, "Do you have any ideas for guest hosts?" Or "I have this idea, or I'm going to get this person, I'm going to reach out. Is that cool?" CJ was strangely quiet tonight.
I didn't do that tonight.
Mhm.
I thought it would be funny if Logan just joined and we threw this on you at the last second. And it turns out I was right. It is funny.
It's really good.
Now I'm getting a FaceTime call from my son. Hang on.
Oh, God. Now, Logan, you are the host of Keel Hauled podcast. How many episodes have you done so far?
I just canned the 29th episode today.
Excellent. Congratulations
Thank you.
on 29 episodes. I have listened to all of them because I play Sea of Thieves all the time. We play together with Greg's friend Mike.
From Canada. The only Mike from Canada, no less.
That's right. So anybody listening to this who plays Sea of Thieves should absolutely add Keel Hauled podcast to your podcast feed and listen to Logan's stuff. It's great. I especially love the Captain's Log where you share some stories from Sea of Thieves.
I have a good time with that, especially when I get to actually play with the community and then get to put them in the story. In fact, this episode coming up tonight is going to have Captain Jorvik, who he records his own little story and puts music to it and writes it all up. It's really well produced, and I get to slip that in as the first mate's log to supplement like the lack of story because I was playing something else this week. So it'll be a good episode this week.
Else. Yes, we're going to get to that in what you've been playing, indeed. And Greg, I don't know, he's still on a FaceTime call with his son, seemingly.
just gave up. As soon as the Sea of Thieves came out, he was done. He's like,
yeah, he's like, oh, I'm getting a call. My phone is ringing. I have to take this. He's about to turn his microphone back on. Are you back? You're
Sorry, guys.
muted.
This call will probably just be about another hour and a half. Just keep talking.
Well, we're not going to spend the whole episode talking about Sea of Thieves. We'll talk about it a little bit later. I do want to get into the news, however. Now that Greg,
I have different ideas for how you could get into the news.
What's the idea?
It's not family friendly.
Oh my. Oh my.
Yikes. Well, you know who else was in the news again this week? Philip Mewson.
Yeah.
Because it turns out more examples of plagiarism.
Turns out when you challenge the internet to ruin your application, the internet says, okay.
And the internet does it for you. So a lot more examples were found of things that he had plagiarized, including his LinkedIn profile.
I love it.
Which is real bad. So IGN has gone to the extent they're scrubbing all of his work from IGN, and they're going to re-review the games that he reviewed with other writers.
I'll re-review some of them.
So have you guys dealt with this, like in your history, because you've all done reviews and stuff? Have you had a coworker that this has ever happened to?
Not that we ever discovered.
No.
Oh man.
Yeah, and apparently some of it is from he plagiarized for IGN from some writers who were also at IGN. Like he plagiarized IGN's own work. It's very, very weird. But yeah, This story just kept on giving. This past
It was a little
week.
bit different when we were doing our thing because we had such a long lead time that it's not like there were other reviews out there.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk to each other if we wanted to, but even then we hadn't written anything. So it's not like today.
Right, and as you'll see, if you're a Patreon backer at the $5 level, and you can listen to our after shows, we do this review game, which we're going to do tonight, by the way. And I read text from old EGM reviews with the names of the game blocked out, and sometimes it's real hard to guess which game that is.
Yeah,
but none of them were plagiarized, so that makes
It's always the
makes it
best.
good.
It's
some
kind
of
of
them are poorly written. I mean, no question.
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
Yes. I look back at my old work and it's bad.
I look back at your old work and cringe.
That's what you should. That's what you should.
It's a bummer. It's a shame to find out because he. I mean, I don't know. I miss Jose.
Me too.
And he was so good, and to have someone else come in to try and fill his shoes was already kind of like trying enough. It was always I don't really know if I want to have someone else fill in Jose's shoes, and then this comes along and it stings even worse.
Yeah, totally. And you got to think like I listened to NVC all the time when Jose was host, and listened to it for a little while Philip was host, but I got the feeling that he didn't really know very much about Nintendo history. He never owned a Wii U.
Wow,
that's recent history too. Yeah, and when things would come up about GameCube era, and he was pretty non-committal on things. So I, at a certain point, stopped listening. I'll have to go back to it. I think Per Schneider is taking over in the interim while they find a new Nintendo editor. But yeah, sad.
Yeah.
I feel for all the guys at IGN who crank out content to have this sort of a black mark against them as far as the internet's concerned.
Do you guys think that there was a specific reason why he was doing? I mean, it's evident that he did it for a while,
and he did it for everything, even his LinkedIn profile. So
yeah,
didn't know any better.
Yeah, didn't know any better.
That's a bummer. I just I feel like with having an opportunity like IGN, you'd want to craft your own voice, and I don't know why going out and taking someone else's work and then trying to pawn it off as your own is something that you feel like is. I mean, where's the integrity as a journalist?
I feel like though, and I think I said this last week, and if you really go look on YouTube, you see this all over the place. That's pretty common practice on YouTube. And I mean, that is where it came from. I mean, you know, how many times would you go look up something, even if you're looking up, say, like a clip of a show or a song or something like that on YouTube, and you find it posted by someone who's not the person who owns that, and it's monetized if they have, you know, or it's like a show that's in a window and flipped backwards, and you know, like all those little tricks that they pull to sort of avoid getting caught. It's common. It's a commonplace thing on YouTube. It's kind of sad, really.
It's all for the Schreier thing. I don't know if you guys. I was reading a couple articles from different outlets about it. That apparently Musin was attacking Schreier as far as saying that he was just trying to write these articles for clickbait and stuff.
Oh yeah, that was in his apology video, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which the apology video then got taken down.
Yeah. Go figure.
Yeah,
it was probably plagiarized.
Well, the funny thing is, they in a couple threads I saw about this subject, people pointed to a video made by somebody who took like the usual YouTuber apology videos and took like the different elements that are used to show that they're like not sincere, and the video like went down the entire list.
I love that there's a usual YouTube apology video.
Yeah, starts with like a long sigh and some silence, and then it ends with like the person like reaching up to click off the camera, and that's exactly like what his video did. Maybe an even more perfect ending to this this story. If this is the end, I guess we'll see. PlayStation VR has sold 3 million units. 3 million. That's great.
I'm excited for it. I don't have one, but man, that's awesome to hear. They need it.
They do. And I mean, VR hopefully just keeps getting better. I mean, the Vive and the PSVR for the price that it's available for are great experiences, great way to like get your feet wet in VR. Hopefully the fact that it is selling gives Sony a reason to continue iterating on it for the next generation.
I think the question though is 3 million selling fast enough for how long it's been on the market? Like there was, I know I saw an article this week that was asking that question. Like, is that good enough? It's really good relative to other VR headsets on PC, which are much more expensive. But is it? I don't know. Is it good enough? I hope so. I hope it is. I hope that the PSVR is something that carries over and when they inevitably announce and release a PlayStation 5.
Yeah,
that hardware will carry on. Because I still enjoy it a lot.
I think that the PSVR is still, I think we're still trying to grasp as an industry what a good VR game really is. Like Bethesda's come out with their games and kind of ported them over to VR, and I think they've done a good job with that. But as a whole, it still feels like we're trying to work out what a VR game should be. And I think until we kind of figure that out, I don't think that the sales are going to really push it. I think the early adopters are going to be what keeps it alive, if anything.
I think too that besides that, you still have that incredibly expensive point of entry, right? Even if we do figure out what a good VR game is supposed to be, then the question is it worth $300, $500? You know, and the isolation that goes with it. That's always been a problem. It's still a problem that they haven't really solved.
Yeah.
Has there been any? I haven't seen anything, but like, have we ever heard about how well Oculus Go did? Is that
I haven't heard?
It was released and then I've never heard a thing about it since.
Yeah,
it went real quiet. It's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame for sure. I think it's one of those things where it's sort of a chicken and egg thing. I think we all want like perfect VR experiences, ones that justify the price, but then for a developer or for a publisher or developer to spend the kind of money that it would take to make that kind of experience, you have to have an installed base, right?
Yeah,
that would buy it. So there's sort of this weird thing going on right now. But
you're willing to finance development.
Yeah, it does seem though that Sony first party has done quite a lot of that. I mean, they did the Inpatient. They just released game. What the hell was it? A shooter from Adam Worth's company. I can't remember the name, but I'll link to it in the show notes. That looked pretty cool. First-person shooter where you can duck around walls and such. I'm forgetting the name of it, but looks good. I don't have a PSVR at home, so I didn't play it.
I had a couple of friends visiting a couple weeks ago who had never used the PSVR, so they specifically asked to check it out, and they really, really enjoyed it. And then they were sort of saying, like, that one of them was saying, "Man, I want this. Like, we have to go home and see how much this costs." But I don't know that he'll follow through on that because, the shine wears off pretty fast, and then you're kind of saying, especially here in Canada, it's like, is this worth $400? Not sure. Not sure.
Oh, the name of that game was Firewall 0 Hour.
Okay.
New release on PSVR. And
there's lots of new releases on PSVR.
The videos on Sony's YouTube channel look really good. Yeah, there are a lot of games on PSVR that people don't even realize are there. Yeah. But the trailers are on Sony's YouTube channel, and a lot of them look pretty good. Yeah. I still want to play Moss.
Me too. I was thinking about buying it the other day, but it's still a little more expensive than I'm willing to spend.
Yeah. Logan, have you tried any VR?
Yeah. I haven't. I don't have any friends nearby that have a PSVR, but I follow some friends on other podcasts that actually keep up on that stuff. And I'd love to do it, but if I did, it would probably be either an Oculus for my PC, or I'd probably go with like a PlayStation 4 Pro, and I'm just not ready to make that dive yet. I'm waiting for like Moss was actually the one game that I saw that I was just like, oh god, that's really tempting. And they had the PlayStation on sale real cheap last Black Friday, so maybe this Black Friday I'll actually see about saving up some money and do the dive. But until then, I'm just kind of watching the sidelines to see if anything truly compelling comes out and just like forces me to want to have to get it.
Cool.
Maybe Sea of Thieves.
Sea of Thieves VR. That would do it.
One day.
All right. Blizzard news. Diablo 3 on the Switch is a real thing. Remember that tweet from months ago where they had like the light switch or whatever, and everybody interpreted that to mean that Diablo 3 was coming to Switch. They denied it at the time. They denied it vehemently, in fact. Yeah. And now it's real that, yes, in fact, it's coming to the Switch. It's real.
When you said Blizzard news, I thought you were going to say Dan Shu works at Blizzard now.
Oh, and there's that too.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
I suppose Diablo 3 is exciting. I don't know.
Editorial team at Blizzard. They're going to do magazine style stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Look forward to seeing what they got. But yeah, Diablo 3 coming to Switch this fall.
Diablo 3 perfect for Switch?
I mean, what isn't perfect for Switch?
I don't know.
Just to kind of speak from, because I've been a Blizzard fanboy most of my life, ever since, like Warcraft, Orcs and Humans. Diablo 3 is probably one of the best games that you can pick up and go and just kind of go through a couple riffs, do some greater riffs. When you're done, disenchant the stuff that you don't need and just kind of keep going. It's perfect for this situation where if you have some time, and the fact that they've built into local multiplayer, that's one of the big things, especially people that know other friends that have Switches and stuff, to be able to walk, to meet up and actually play. It feels like when you would go to like an arcade and you'd get your buddies around like Gauntlet or something, and you'd all just log in, you'd have your own profile, you'd punch in whatever code you had, and you get to play it. In Diablo, having them give you all the content, the Reaper of Souls, the Necromancer stuff, it's great. It's basically them saying, like, we're putting this out there to solidify that, like, this is the end of the D3 era as they move into Diablo 4. And hopefully Diablo 4 will come out for the Switch as well as the rest of the consoles and PC. And the pre-order stuff's really cool. It almost makes me want to buy it again just for the Ganondorf stuff.
Oh yeah, it's got like Breath of the Wild stuff or Zelda stuff, just sort of like Skyrim had, right?
Yeah. You've got it's got the classic transmog for Ganondorf, and it's got a little Kukos chicken and then a couple emblems, I think. But it's one of those little things. I wasn't expecting the tie-in. I wasn't expecting them to actually put development time towards this game, but the fact that they did it, and the fact that they even went ahead and did a couple little things similar to with Skyrim, having the Legend of Zelda stuff, and then having them put like they're really kind of trying to integrate third-party publishers into the Switch and make it unique. That people would actually want to go and get it again, even though it's something that's been out for years on other consoles. But to have Diablo portable, that's a great choice for that console.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, and you mentioned the multiplayer stuff. Apparently, you can play 2 players on one Switch. You can do 4 players over wireless LAN using multiple Switches, up to 4 players in online play, or a combination of local and online. That's pretty good. That's pretty awesome.
Pretty good options. Yeah.
There's almost no reason to play it alone at that point.
Exactly.
Unless you have no friends.
And apparently, this does support voice chat. And it'll be handled through the Nintendo Switch app.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay.
So basically you're using Discord.
Discord, which is fine, I guess.
It supports voice chat in the loosest sense of the phrase.
Yeah, well, we're coming up on September, right?
It supports an app that supports voice chat.
Well, the online service goes out second half of September. I'm really wondering if they're going to update that app. Like, and what other games are going to support it? Like, is Mario Kart going to switch to that?
So I get you. I see what you did there.
What?
Mario Kart going to switch to that?
Switch to that? Like, what other games are going to support it? Fortnite? Paladins?
Well, Fortnite's got it built in, doesn't it?
It uses its own thing, yeah.
Yeah. Which means the system's capable, which is more reason to kill the app and just put it into the system like they should have done.
And it's funny, like somebody like me who I really wanted to try the app, I could never get a game together, Splatoon 2, to like try voice chat.
Because it's not worth it.
Well, yeah.
To speak to the voice quality on the app is actually really good, and the party to get a party, once you have a party, it actually works really well. I do like the app. I just think it's a terrible route to go to force people to talk to other people in a game. It should just be one-stop shop on the console. That's the whole point of the system, is to be able to do everything with this console. Take it with you, leave it at home, play games online, play games locally, and it's like they're pushing off the voice chat to this app, and it just doesn't make sense.
Though I will say, I played Sea of Thieves with Charlotte this weekend, and we played online, of course, because the game's only online. And we had another crew come by and used some salty language, and she could hear it. It was not great. It was not great. I had to go in and turn off all other crews on her game.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Wait, what was she playing on?
She's playing on the Xbox One S that I have.
Yeah. Jeez, I didn't realize you had multiple Xbox Ones.
I now have multiple Xbox Ones.
Ever since March. You got the Xbox One Pro just for
Oh yeah, I bought the X, when Sea of Thieves, before Sea of Thieves came out, and then I picked up an S a few months ago.
Oh,
wait, you bought the X first?
Yes,
and then you bought.
Then I bought an S.
CJ,
do I have a problem?
Yes.
Well, let's talk about the new Xbox One Elite controller that's coming out in October.
That segue.
Just of course, right after I buy the regular Elite, we're gonna get a new version.
Yeah, you bought an Elite. You are out of your mind.
I don't know what you're talking about. Don't know what you're talking about. I need those extra buttons in the back to do quick chat stuff. That's what I need it for.
I mean, I can't blame you. I mean, have they said officially like what it looks like and stuff yet? Because I haven't seen any photos of it personally.
No, they haven't, but they've said that it's going to have internal battery packs, so it's going to be rechargeable without AA's. It's going to have USB support, and there's some other change I heard to the analog triggers. So, and it's going to have more durable, better quality parts, etc. I've been using the Elite for a month or so, maybe a little more. And I really like the build quality on it. It's quite possibly like the best.
For the price, it should be a
controller I know, yeah.
Yeah.
The best controller I've ever used. And the customizable parts, it's surprising how easy they are to snap on and off. Not that I've done that a whole lot, but I did that at the beginning to just kind of get a good feel for everything.
I hope that if it's coming with a battery pack, I actually kind of hope that it still gives you the option of just using two AA's. I really prefer that a lot. I really prefer that because I just have AA's, and for my Xbox controllers, I don't have to buy a charger. I feel like with my PlayStation 4 controllers, the only way that I can have my controllers good to go whenever is to have a charger. And the charger is nice and it's not expensive, and but it's just another thing that needs to be plugged in. It needs to be sitting on my setup, and I like not feeling like I have to do that with the Xbox One controllers. I like the idea that I can use AA's. I wish I could do that in all my controllers, to be honest.
Yeah.
Do you think that going with an internal battery pack, you're kind of cutting the lifespan of the actual controller as a result?
Absolutely.
Without having that option for AA's, you're effectively saying that this lithium ion is only going to be good for a couple of years before you start to really lose the battery life.
And it's funny because I actually have never with the one, I've never bothered getting a charge pack because I had such terrible experience with the ones on the 360.
Oh yeah,
they just didn't last.
Yeah, they would die out real quick.
Yeah, so
I'm
sure they're not like that anymore, but I've just never wanted to take the plunge again.
Same here. Like the plain charge pack for the Xbox One, I just didn't even bother with that. I do have Eneloops though, the rechargeable battery thing. From, I think it's Toshiba or what company makes it? Anyway,
I've heard that somebody else this week told me about those too and said they were fantastic.
Yeah, they're very good. They're very good. But now a lot of the time I just play plugged into USB because.
Oh, really?
I get low
You weirdo.
battery warnings a lot.
It's like anytime
Heather?
I say something that I feel like is common sense, you're there to say, yeah, I do it opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I wonder if so if this does come with a rechargeable, maybe it comes with a play and charge pack, because even the Xbox One controllers now with the play and charge, it's just a pack of AA's that snaps into the back.
Which
Yeah.
I've had good experience with that so far with
Really?
the charging dock. Yeah, I feel like with the 360 it was a different chemistry that they were using for the battery packs, and then it makes more sense why they weren't as good in my opinion. But I've been using my Xbox One controller, the Sea of Thieves one, for PC play for a while, just when I'm kind of casually playing, and I've had the same battery life for hours for what has it been, 6 months? Roughly.
Yeah.
That's definitely better than the 360 was.
Yeah.
Those things did not last at all.
They did not. No. This new one apparently ships in October. It'll be $149.99.
So $200 in Canada.
200 in Canada. Yeah. If you take your gaming seriously, you'll pick it up.
I take my finances seriously.
Yeah,
it should be right in time for Mega Man 11, right? Because that's right now.
That's true.
Yeah.
God, I forgot Mega Man 11 was coming out.
How could you forget?
Do you remember Time Splitters? Remember Second Sight?
I remember everyone going apeshit over Time Splitters.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't remember Second Sight. I remember the name.
Fun because Time Splitters had monkeys in it.
Sure. Let's go with that.
I don't remember all that much about Time Splitters because I don't even think I ever played one of them. Maybe I did. I don't remember it though.
Anyway, of course, it was a big deal because, of course, that was done by the same, apparently the same team that did Perfect Dark GoldenEye.
No, just GoldenEye.
Just right? GoldenEye. Sorry.
Yeah. THQ Nordic has acquired Time Splitters and Second Sight.
It's interesting.
So you know what that means? You know what that means? I don't know what it means. Maybe they're going to do a re-release.
What does it mean?
Maybe
backwards compatible versions.
Yeah, backwards compatibility. Maybe new version. Maybe they're going to use that IP to launch another first-person shooter franchise. I don't know.
It'd be interesting. I mean, with THQ, I remember them when they were making like games for Blizzard back in the day. But I remember the fact that it was the company that was founded by the ex-Rare employees. It was interesting to see like that split. I mean, I would love to see. I loved Time Splitters when I was back in GameCube days. I was at a GameStop, and that was all we were playing for a while, and that and Smash and stuff. But I mean, it'd be interesting to see if they could bring this backwards compatibility and give some players some reason to check out, like what happened post Perfect Dark era when, we didn't have like big IPs to really attach. I mean, it was like Brute Force and then eventually Halo, but there was like a weird gap between those generations of shooters that we got like Time Splitters.
Yeah, it was during that time when when consoles weren't really considered like the place where you played first-person shooters. Like GoldenEye, I think, did that well on the N64, and it wasn't until the original Halo that people took first-person shooters on a console seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't until we finally got the second analog stick, really. And we had the weird little C stick on the GameCube controller, but I don't even remember using that for the camera.
Well, maybe we'll find out.
I was never big into Time Splitters, but I remember the OPM folks.
They were way
Time Splitters like crazy. They loved that game.
Yeah. Indeed.
Free Radical Design was the name of the company, by the way.
Oh yeah, Free Radical,
which were Rare people.
And of course, this THQ is not the same THQ from back in the day. This is like
this is just a company
from the ashes THQ.
Yeah, they have nothing to do with the old one, except I think they're a group that bought a bunch of the rights to a bunch of their properties.
Yes, that's right. All right, should we go into what we've been playing?
Couldn't hurt.
All right, Captain Logan, since you are our guest, I think you should kick us off with what you've been playing, and it's probably slightly Sea of Thieves related, but
I should probably
know
just go
you've been playing
grab my
something else.
Switch and mute my microphone, right?
So it's been an interesting any other week, and probably the last 3 months, I would say it would be 100% a combination of Sea of Thieves with a little bit of Heroes of the Storm. But with this whole last week, we got a brand new World of Warcraft expansion, and World of Warcraft has been a big game for me for the last 14 years. But the new expansion came out.
It's so surprising how long the game has been around.
It's crazy.
And, yeah, I played like, I don't know, 10 years ago. I played like a demo of it, or I played like the first little bit. I never paid to play it, but I never really got into it. But it's still kicking.
This is actually probably the best it's ever been. There's a lot of people out there that have very specific memories for different expansions, and this one not only hits some of the best story plots that I've seen in the game with new characters, but the music is amazing. Like the music they've just gone all out. It's really immersive. They've really taken a lot of the quality of life features from past expansions and come out with a system that I think is really going to help players really kind of accept the normal grind that you expect with an MMO. That coupled with having a re-emphasis on having the two main factions kind of butting heads again. I mean, it always comes with every new expansion where there's always like Horde versus Alliance, and they're always butting heads, and then eventually some big baddie will come around and we all kind of like grab hands and go kind of, do whatever you have to get rid of these big baddies. But this is probably one of the more interesting expansions I think I've ever played from two different perspectives.
They've really been doubling down on the whole two factions thing with their advertising, like crazy, right? Like every ad you see, that's all it's about.
Yep. And it's fun because they've got a whole setup. Like before, it used to be set up where they had multiple servers, and every server had different, it was focused on different things. So they had PvE servers, and they had PvP servers, and then they had RP servers, and they just kind of kept people separate. So it didn't feel like you were forced into a situation where you didn't want to be in. And now they've just got all the servers are kind of regular servers, but they've got a war mode. And the war mode really kind of gives you a chance to decide, okay, is today the day that I want to go out and actually kill other players, or is today the day where I just want to go out and just do quests or grind herbs or fishing or whatever you want to do? Now they've kind of set it up so that you get that choice now, and it's giving the player a lot more agency on deciding on how they want to experience other players. So now if I have war mode off and I go into Horde territory, or if I go into Alliance territory, depending on what faction I'm on, it doesn't matter if I run into other players who are the scum of the earth that just want to sit on my corpse and leave me to rot for hours. They'll never be able to touch me at that point. And I love that. I love being able to decide when I want a PvP and have it be on my terms.
Now, Are you still playing with an account that you created 14 years ago? Is that kind of how this goes?
There was stuff that happened in 2010 that I can't talk about. But as it stands, someone was profitable, and another person was very happy with some very old items from 2004.
Ah, I see. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can't talk about it, but I'm on another account, and I kind of miss some of the old stuff that I had back when I had, because I went all out back then. It was like 2004. I got the collector's editions for every expansion, had all the pets, rated with the top guilds in some of the expansions, and really went all in. But now it's just a lot more casual, and now I'm just jumping in for the story, just to kind of experience like what it is, and I can't stress just how good the story is, coming back to like kind of the what it was to deal with inner politics. Like it feels more like a drama when you're playing through some of the factions and trying to understand some of the political sways and stuff of what's going on between the factions and how they deal with it. But yeah, really good. Oh, and I've been also playing a little bit of Sea Thieves.
Oh yeah, that little game, indie game. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been a lot of fun, and I'm sure we can talk a little bit about the curse sales and how you feel about the commendations system. And
Do you want to talk about that now? Should we just jump right into it?
I don't know, Greg. Are you still?
I know I want to. No, I'm getting. No, go ahead. I'm serious. Go ahead.
Let's get it out of the way.
Okay, because I think you and I have differing opinions on the commendation system being
We might.
a weekly. You like having every week is a different thing, and I think you're mad for that.
Here's the reason why. Yeah, I like having commendations locked like week to week. It's kept me coming back to the game, and while I do think the skeleton ships they've gotten a little repetitive now. The third week's over. Kind of feels like I never want to do skeleton ships ever again at this point. But I do like having a reason to come back to the game and crewing up with other people over a 3-week campaign, which this is supposed to be. Like the last campaign update, the Hungering Deep, everybody kind of did the thing that they needed to do in the first couple days, and then nobody came back to it, right? So like spacing out things I think worked well, and especially since I play a lot of mobile games, and a lot of those games have events similar to this where you have to come back week after week, and this just kind of feels like a natural extension of that, and I kind of like that.
So okay, so you're mostly okay as long as it's like a week to week kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't mind them changing up like the curses on a week to week basis. I think I personally would have preferred if they had gone with more of a rotation or a random, like if you know, like the three seas are split up to Shores of Plenty, the Wilds, and the Ancient Isles. If they had, say, 3 curses specific to one sea, but every time you went out there during the 3 weeks, it would be a different curse of those 3.
Yeah, but then I think you run into then the unpredictability factor, and you'd have people on ships coming towards you, and you're like, oh, yay, like, finally I'm saved. I'm down to 0 planks. Like, I really need saving here, and then have the other crew log out immediately because that wasn't the fight that they wanted to do.
True. I can definitely see where that goes into building commendations that don't reward you for going for specific curses, and building commendations more around teaching you how to play the game in different ways, or just completing more ships. Like one of the commendations was sink 50 ships. I did that in the first day because I just went through each of the different seas and did the different battles, and I was like, okay, well that was intended to be a legendary commendation that was hard to achieve, but I mean at that point it's not that legendary if I can complete it in the first day within an 8-hour shift of gameplay, which is a lot of time, but I mean I set aside time to actually do that. I think if they set it up so that players are incentivized to have the engagement regardless of what curse is active, then people would want to come back, because eventually they'd have commendations set up so that you would be getting rewarded over time for just playing it regardless of where am I, what week is it, what time frame is it, and stuff. Take away that and just let players have fun playing it, and then give them rewards for engaging with other crews or other people.
Which it does sound, from what Rare has said on the most recent developer update video, they are going to move away maybe from specific like timed areas being active, which again, I don't think that's great, but we'll see how it plays out. Open to it. I think actually we're not all that far apart from our opinions. I think only where it differs is that I think it might even be good for not all players to have all of the commendations, and having the timed stuff, I think, lent itself to that. There were a lot of complaints that, I'm working during this or that fight, and that, to me, that just, you're not going to get all of the commendations, and to me that's fine. Have some of them be completely rare. No pun intended.
I agree. But at the same time, when you when you take a curse, for example, and you say that this curse is going to be going between 12 p.m. and 4 p.m., and then 12 a.m. and 4 a.m., and someone wants to experience that curse, then you're essentially locking content based around time, because that person will never have that time to, they're not going to wake up at midnight to try and get a crew together, and they're not going to get off work early, because that's just, you know, they're not able to do that. So when you're locking content specifically behind time frames, it's disheartening. It's a player hostile experience. You want to give players an opportunity, because at the end of this campaign, we're going to get the cursed cannonballs. And if not everyone got to try out the different curses, then they're going to look at this orb and, you know, have no clue what it is until they get out there and use it. And, you know, if another crew member doesn't, you know, tell them, hey, this is what this is, use it for that time, they're going to throw it out willy-nilly and, you know, potentially lose a good opportunity to sink another ship or to win an engagement.
I think that's going to happen regardless, by the way, because even now people don't know how to use a speaking trumpet.
Like, you can't I know. I always forget that I have it.
Yeah.
Like, and there are going to be people who don't even know what the cursed cannonballs are, and they're going to get hit with it after this campaign is over, and they're just not going to realize what it is.
So those people aside, I feel like maybe then you're hindering the people that do follow that, and then you're taking away the opportunity for the people that are up to date on the news, that want to experience these fights, but because of the time restriction, even though they're informed, they aren't going to be able to go through and do that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and I think it would be maybe because Pokemon, right, has had for years these things where like certain Pokemon only showed up in the morning or at night, and in the latest games you can time shift, which made those a lot easier to do. Maybe there's some way to do that in the game that would be good. What I really want is more commendations, not fewer, and have ones that I'm not able to get through the normal course of play. And yeah, I play Sea of Thieves a lot, but I'm still waiting for an event where I don't get all the commendations, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I agree in the sense that I also want more commendations. I think I just want more commendations that reward play outside of the normal path that you take. Like, you go to a ship, you shoot it with a bunch of cannonballs, and it sinks. How about throw buckets of water on it? How about blind the captain with a bucket of vomit? Do weird stuff.
Weird stuff. The sinking with the Chest of Sorrows was a great little twist on that. Like, if there was a commendation for that, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Or throw a bucket of vomit or even water on a skeleton captain. Like, that would have been cool for sure.
Yeah. And I think I'm happy that Rare is so quick to be able to go in and kind of reiterate. That's our time. That's all
played off. We're being played off. All right, you can turn it off now, Greg. You can turn it off now. Yes.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to Forsaken Shores.
Yes, me too.
I think they're going to take some healthy tips.
I'm looking forward to what else they have planned past all this too. I will say, so I've done this a couple of times, and I did it again this weekend, where I will just join an open lobby and have my microphone muted and try to play with strangers without using voice chat, and it's always an interesting time. This weekend, each time I joined, it was crews that didn't have a mission down on the captain's table, and one of them I joined, and he didn't have a mission down. I looked out to where we were sailing, and we were about to hit the island. Nice. He wasn't even on the ship. It was at Wanderer's Refuge. He wasn't on the ship. I don't know what happened or what he was doing. No mission down. And there's no way with quick chat to ask those questions. You just kind of go along with whatever they're doing.
At least he didn't brig you. I mean, he could have.
He didn't. Well, we were in a sloop, so he couldn't. But, yeah, it was interesting. And another one, this guy was following this other crew around. They were not in an alliance. No voyage down. It was very weird. Anyway, I like doing that from time to time, and maybe I'll stream that at some point.
Yeah, I don't mind jumping in on open crews at least once a week just to talk to other people and get their thoughts on the game and just kind of hear what they do around it and stuff. And that kind of helps as I just keeps me social, keeps me outside of my my normal group of friends that I always play with.
Totally. Mike from Canada.
Yep.
We're all bros. All right.
CJ's new best friend, Mike.
Yeah, that's right. And also my daughter's best friend because we played today, and
that's creepy. That's creepy.
We got Mike to play too. My daughter is very enthusiastic about the game, and if another person joins us or we run into another crew, she just talks nonstop about how much she loves being a pirate. It's great.
That's awesome. Greg,
right.
there's been a couple times where you've played, and I've lamented not being able to join in on the crew. But I'm curious, did you get a chance to do any of the Curse Sales content?
I did a couple weeks. The first week I think it was. I played with Mike and CJ.
Week. You did, yeah.
With CJ and Mike and CJ's best friend Mike. I loved it. I really loved it. I said this before on the show. Like that, to me, that's what I was looking for. With Sea of Thieves was more action on the water as opposed to just sailing from island to island. And you know, I know some people I know CJ loves that, but
I do.
I personally,
I
find it okay.
Here's the thing about that. And this is focused on, like, I don't find the sailing from island to island thing exciting. And I agree with that. Actually, if there were no other ships on the server and it was just sailing from island to island, gathering things, I agree that is kind of boring. To me, the fun of Sea of Thieves is that ship that you see on the horizon. There are actual people on there playing, and you have no idea what they're going to do, whether they're going to head your way or run away from you or shoot a cannon at you.
I agree with that, but it also felt like, and I mean, I don't play nearly as much as you guys do, obviously, but it also felt like to me that a lot of players had sort of settled into this mode where there wasn't a lot of battle happening.
Yeah.
Which again, like, whatever. Anyway, I really enjoyed it.
Really depends on the server that you join, because you can get on a PvP heavy server where everyone is interested in PvP, and then it's a whole different game than if you join a dead server and have no one contesting anything that you do.
Yeah.
Totally different experience.
Anyway, I really dig it. I really like the idea of the skeleton ships.
Is there like a because I mean with pirates in general, is there ever something where you feel like what is one thing you want to see from that game because I mean, I talk to people all the time and they all have the same ideas that I do for the most part about what they would want. Coming from an outsider's perspective compared to what I'm used to, is there something that you would love to see implemented in that game that would get you a little more hooked? Progression, more PvP content.
I actually like the fact that the progression isn't it doesn't have any effect on your actual stats.
Yeah.
Because again, somebody who picks it up and plays it for like an hour and a half every 2 or 3 weeks, I don't feel like I'm so far behind. Especially where my friends, the people that I want to play with, play so much. It would just be crazy. I'd be so underleveled compared to you guys. It'd be crazy.
Yeah.
So I actually do kind of like that. That's the way this game works. I think it makes it very casual player friendly, as well as like friendly to the hardcore crews. I think I'd like more to like. It's weird. Now I just finished saying that I wanted more to do on the water. Now that that's there, I'd like something different to do than simple scavenger hunts.
Yeah,
on the islands.
Like maybe
if they were more involved, or cave systems or something where you're off the boat for a while and you're actually going and doing something a little more interesting. Of course, then your boat would get ransacked, but
definitely. Yeah, but I totally agree with you. By the way, that would be awesome if they had like dungeons. The skeleton forts
Something
already
like that,
are pretty cool, but imagine if it was like an area you could go down with your crew and play through a dungeon where you ran into another crew halfway through.
Right.
On foot.
Like the Goonies.
Yeah, exactly.
The game needs more One-Eyed Willy. That's what it needs.
I think we have an episode title. Needs more One-Eyed Willy.
Just change the rating of the show. That's one phrase. So that's I 100% agree. I love the idea of maybe there being a giant cavern system that you have to go down to because there is like One-Eyed Willy down there with a hoard of treasure, and it's two branching paths and two crews are spawned into that area, and whoever gets there first and survives gets the treasure. Like I think that would be an amazing thing to actually go through.
And what would make it even better is if, there are entrances to this area on the four corners of the map. So when you go in, you don't know who else is in there because you can't see the other side of the map. You can't see the other entrance. And already they have the Ferry of the Damned, which is sort of a all server combined area. You could do something like that where, there's the dungeon or special area that everybody is able to go to. That'd be cool. That'd be really cool. You're Pirate Legend already there, Logan.
Yeah.
I was there when you got Pirate Legend. And
it was fun.
I wondered how that has changed the way that you play or your frequency of playing.
I totally thought you were going to ask how it's changed his life.
How has it changed your life? For the good or the bad?
Greg, you may not know this, but I don't know if you can see, but
I can see it.
It has literally changed my life to the point where I've actually gone out and got a Reaper's Mark tattoo to commemorate.
It looks nice, by the way.
Thank you. I'm really happy with it. It's still healing, so it itches like crazy right now. But the like being a Pirate Legend is such a change in my whole approach to playing the game. Like when you first start out the game, if you're trying to get to Pirate Legend, every piece of treasure matters, every piece of loot matters, every shipwreck matters, every item on a beach matters. Everything is going to help you progress, and taking out other ships is going to help you progress. Once you hit Pirate Legend, that completely changes. Like going out and doing a skeleton battle right now for me is the experience of actually going out to do it and getting the gold. The gold is probably secondary because it's just going to help me get more cosmetics. Right. But for the most part, I have a majority of the cosmetics that I want, and I have the look that I want, and I don't need the reputation. So I find myself almost kind of not bored, but less incentivized to go actually do something in the world, which is why I've kind of been drawn to World of Warcraft right now, because I have that grinding goal now in that game, and that's kind of feeding that desire that I had when I was working towards Pirate Legend. So now it's mostly just go out, help other people, get some gold along the way, log out, call it a day.
Yeah, and that's the reason why
because you're getting close now.
I'm getting very close. I
can't believe you haven't yet.
50, 40.
You probably could right now.
43 or 44. Yeah, I could. So with the special events, they have this new currency, and you can buy letters of recommendation that level you up in each of the factions. So right now, if I wanted to, I could log onto the game and be a Pirate Legend immediately. But I haven't done that because I don't know about that change in the way that I play, the way that you're describing it. It's like I don't want to lose that incentive to play and only have to grind Athenas, because I've watched people do that and it just seems like a terrible thing. That's the new mission, new faction that comes up after you're level 50 and everything. So
it's yeah. The Athenas is a huge grind, and the amount
it's like 3 hours of you put one mission down and then it's all right. I'm doing this for 3 hours.
Yeah. There's a reason why the Pirate Legends have like formed a community of their own, and they'll go onto a server, they'll find a lobby group on a sloop, and they'll be like, hey, do you guys want some free chests? Take our dude, go to this island and go dig it up and then get it done for us, and we'll go work on other stuff. There needs to be a better end game right now. I think 6 months into the game development, they need to kind of approach the game from a standpoint that Yeah, there's only maybe 0.35 or 0.4% of the population that's Pirate Legend, but they're the ones that are going to be the ones out there causing more problems if they don't have something to do.
Right, I totally agree. Yeah, they're just gonna be griefing. All right, we should move on to something else. Now, was that all you've been playing, Logan?
Yeah. I'm interested to see what Greg's playing here.
Greg, what do you got?
No, I don't know what this is.
Yeah, so sorry, my watch just restarted or something. And I apologize in advance for me hacking and coughing my way through this. I've managed to catch a summer cold, so that's fun. So okay, yeah, I've been playing adventure games on my stream
adventure
every Monday
games.
night.
Old
Adventure games. Been working
Like from
through
the
old school
80s.
stuff. Yep, from the early '80s.
That's
Mostly Sierra stuff. Although last week I was talking about this Bananas game that was based on the Dallas primetime soap opera, 1978, which was amazing. And when I say bananas, I mean it, because there was a lot of monkeys chewing tobacco in that game. So anyway, the game that I played this past Monday night was the Portopia serial murder incident, which is it's an adventure game by Yuji Horii, which name you might recognize from Dragon Quest.
Yes.
So yeah, this was I think he actually, it's by Chunsoft again, Dragon Quest. I think he actually released this on Japanese PCs in like '82. But basically, it's a game that they created, and he created because he was into computer adventure games, like the stuff that Sierra was doing, and realized that Japan didn't have wasn't working on a similar genre. There weren't Japanese adventure games on computers. So he decided to make one. And so he did that. It was on multiple Japanese PCs, but then also it was treated as kind of like the canary in the coal mine for Yuji Horii and for Chunsoft on the Famicom, which was basically to test the waters and see, like, would Famicom players be interested in a game like this on a console? Would it work on a console?
Wow.
And of course, to get around the whole interface, because I mean, the interface on the PC was text input, as most adventure games were at the time. So of course you couldn't do that on a Famicom. So they had to come up with a new interface where you just had a bunch of different commands that you could choose from, and they added a few different things as well. They added a 3D dungeon of all things. Again, apparently because Horii was a big Wizardry fan. Because I don't know if you've ever come across this, but Wizardry, the old RPG series, was huge in Japan.
And on like every system. It was on like Famicom, Game Boy Color, like everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything.
It's on everything. And when you start reading up the history, you realize why. It was huge and hugely influential in Japan. So
true.
Yeah. So yeah, the Portopia serial murder incident is literally, it's it's more probably what we would call nowadays, most of us video game nerds would call a visual novel, where it's just, you move from scene to scene. There's no real action. You're just moving from scene to scene, and you have a series of commands and a series of sort of things that you can do in every scene, where it's like, okay, we're here, call out for someone, investigate someone, talk to people on the street. Here's a character here. Ask them a specific thing, show them a specific item. And the whole idea is that there's been a murder that you and your assistant detective, Yasuhara, I think is the name he goes by, are set to solve. And you can do that through, again, investigating different areas, interrogating suspects and witnesses and that sort of thing. And it's really, really good. I was really impressed by it. So it never came out here, but it's gotten a fan translation. And it's just one of those, it's like I said, a hugely influential game. I believe Hideo Kojima has called this game out a couple times as sort of a big inspiration for him to get into gaming. And honestly, you can trace Snatcher right back to this. Like the games are very similar. But yeah, something that I've just heard about for a long time because I'm big into game history, and of course, watching things by like people like Jeremy Parish and of course Contendo. gaming a story, and you always hear the Portopia serial murder incident talked about. So I finally played it on the stream. Really super enjoyed it. I can see why it never came here. Lots of suicide, strip clubs, drugs, murder. Yeah,
So
it's great.
It's like 1982's version of GTA.
Yeah, good clean family fun. Yeah, so it's just I really enjoyed it. And it's just a very interesting piece of history, and again, really easy to find the translation patch, and I think it's worth checking out. I think it'd be worth anyone who's interested in sort of the history of that genre checking out, which is kind of what I'm doing on these Monday night streams, which is just to sort of go through adventure games. And there's going to be a ton of Japanese adventure games that I don't cover because I can't speak or read Japanese. Just so happens that this is a hugely influential one, and it has an English translation patch. So, really cool. Yeah, I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Excuse me. The other game really that I played this week was I finally finished Mega Man and Bass. As Bass, I will never play that game again. It is insanely difficult in parts, and I would say unfair. And I don't normally say that about Mega Man games, but the checkpoint system in that game, man, screw that. There's the whole game ends with just this massive boss rush, and not like a standard sort of Mega Man boss rush where, like, anybody who's played a Mega Man game knows you get to the second to last level usually, or usually second last level, and you're in a room with a bunch of transporters where you fight all 8 or 6 robot bosses again, and then you move on to Dr. Wily, 1 or 2 forms of Dr. Wily, or that sort of thing. In this game, the last area is split into 3 stages. The second stage is fight against who you think is the main antagonist in this game, which is a robot named King. And it's a gauntlet where you go and you fight this tank that takes forever to kill. And then you fight this flying machine. It's on a forced scrolling area where if you miss a jump, you die. And this flying machine can either shoot you with this giant laser that will knock you off, can destroy platforms you're supposed to jump to, or releases these things that if you hit them, they're flares, and they make the whole screen go bright white, and you still have to make the jump. You can't see where you're jumping. You just have to make the jumps by feel. They have to do that. Then you get to King. You fight his first form. Then something happens. You fight his second form. Then something else happens. You don't get to heal. And then you go fight all 3 things, the tank, the plane, and King in another piece of armor as one giant robot. And if you die during any of those things, you go back to the beginning of that piece of the level, because there's still like platforming bits in between all this. And you have to do those again. And then if you lose all your lives and you continue, you actually have to do the whole level over again. So then you finish that finally, which is one of the things I did this week. And you find out who the real, spoiler alert, who the real enemy is. Of course, it's Dr. Wily. Excuse me. So then in the final level, it's like, okay, I'm going to fight all the 8 robot bosses again, but it's not a series of teleporters anymore. It's a long level that you just keep getting to boss rooms, and you don't get any healing. And there's tons of like instant death spikes everywhere, and it's too much.
Wasn't it like they did that kind of thing without checkpoints in order to make it seem like the game was longer or worth your money back then? Wasn't that one of the things with Ninja Gaiden? They did those enemies that spawned and knocked you off, knocked you to your death.
I always felt like they did that because it was just easier to program that way.
Oh, maybe that's it too.
But anyway, completed. There was another game that I checked out really, really briefly this week, and I don't have a lot to say about it yet because I haven't played it enough. But it's a Mega Drive game that was on Kickstarter a while back, was just shipped finally for PC, and if you backed it at a certain level, you actually get a Mega Drive ROM called Tanglewood, which I don't have a whole lot to say about except that it's really pretty. and it's just a platformer. If it's sort of a platformer, it feels very much out of this world, like out of this world in a way. But yeah, I'm gonna play more of it this week. I might stream it this week instead of Mega Man 9 just to do something different on my retro night on Tuesday. But yeah, Tanglewood, kind of interesting looking game. I'll have more to say about it next week.
Cool.
That's all I have to talk about. Now I'm gonna click off my mic and cough to death.
Okay, you do that. Yeah, so I've been playing Sea of Thieves, obviously. I also wanted to talk about Death's Gambit for a minute. This is a game by Adult Swim Games and developer White Rabbit. And yeah, it's a Souls-like game, which I am terrible at. And I was not working on this game directly, so I don't have hours and hours of experience in it. So I am terrible at it. But it is a very cool retro-looking Souls game, 2D side-scrolling, and you play an agent of death. You're this soldier who dies, and then death resurrects him, and you have to help death out by slaying all these bosses and whatnot. I am awful, like I said, at this game, but it is very much for fans of Dark Souls and the like. I think you would totally dig it if you were into Dead Cells. This is much more hardcore Souls-like than Dead Cells. Like it is some serious stuff. Very difficult for someone as casual into Soulsborne games as I am. I'm terrible at them. I only really played Bloodborne very deep in, so but it's a great game, great looking game, great soundtrack, great dubbing. White Rabbit has been working on this game for like 5 years. It's labor of love for them, and if you love Dark Souls games, you should give it a shot. It's available now on PlayStation Network and Steam.
This looks amazing. Like I hadn't heard about this, but just kind of going through a couple screenshots and some videos online, it looks so fluid for all the sprites and stuff.
Yeah, the animation is absolutely fantastic. It's great stuff. I wish I was better at Souls games, but
I mean that's a matter of just repetition, right? I mean
that's true. That's true.
It's just getting the time to actually get in there and learn what the mechanic is, and then work around it.
Indeed, yeah. And this you can customize your character and the loadout, the weapon you bring in, and the powers you bring in. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's a roguelike?
It is not a roguelike.
Okay. So you actually get to keep everything.
You don't get to keep everything. You do have to return back to where you were to get your feather, or reclaim your feather, which those you can use to customize your loadout and whatnot. So from that perspective, maybe, but it's not procedurally generated or anything like that. This is bespoke levels.
How does it compare to, say, like Mummy Demastered?
I never played Mummy Demastered.
Okay.
The answer.
I'm going to say it's better than the Mummy Demastered, and everyone should buy
it. Touche.
All right. I think we should get into some tweets. And oh wait, I have the music.
Here we go.
Hold on. Wait, where is it?
Tweet. I'm going to say that the soundboard sells that way more than Phil has lately.
I know, right? He does the very bored version of it.
Yeah.
The melancholy version.
I was half tempted to come in with some voices tonight just to feel like Phil was still here.
Do some voices. Go ahead. What's your best voice?
I don't know what you guys are talking about. There's lots of
Okay, you can stop now.
Okay.
Was that your Bill Mudron voice?
Yes. Not good. Trying. Working on it.
All right, let's do this one from hacker alias Miri, who says, in your professional opinion, which publisher does the best marketing? I'm going to say Adult Swim Games.
Oh, come on.
No. Let's see. What big publisher does the best marketing? I actually think Bethesda does a really great job. Not only in marketing their titles, but I think they do a great job of community. They've got just a great amount of loyalty around Elder Scrolls and around Fallout and around Prey even. So yeah, I would probably say Bethesda.
I'm a big fan of everything Devolver Digital does when it comes to marketing.
Yeah, they're pretty good. They're pretty good.
I've actually been really impressed with Nintendo lately. The Switch campaigns have been on point. They're very expressive on what you do in the games, and they're not just a like corny kind of cheesy ones. There's never a bunch of just kids sitting there playing it. They're really trying to change how they are kind of visualized by the masses and stuff. I mean the Switch has done really well. I think they've probably won it for me.
Let's be honest. Early 90s Sega is what we're talking about.
Sega.
Yes.
Sega Scream.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we could rewind time, early 90s Sega it was on point. Definitely on point.
I think Nintendo's taken a lot from those kind of that marketing thing. It's very kind of guerrilla tactics.
Yeah. All right, let's do this one from I always mess up his name, so I'm just gonna say Scoop Joey. Says, if you could prevent or alter one event in video game industry history, what would it be? My choice is the Square Enix merger. Squaresoft games and Enix games were always fantastic. Square Enix games are not always the best.
That's tough.
That is a tough one.
I guess if I had to choose one, I would have to say probably the moment when Sony was going to be with Nintendo as far as the CD system. And I think that we really lost out on what could have been some really good potential from Nintendo because of that, and them going to Sega as a result.
Well, Sony not going with Nintendo led to a lot of other things, like Squaresoft going with Sony and not Nintendo.
Well, it led to the PlayStation.
Right? It led to the PlayStation, exactly. The industry would be so different had that actual.
It would be interesting to see.
That's what I want to see. I want to see what would have happened if we didn't have a PlayStation, and as a result of Xbox. Like, where would the market have gone? Who would have risen as a result as a competitor to Nintendo? Would Sega still be in the mix?
I don't think they would, but
I don't know if that would have been enough.
I think we need to change another thing at that point, which would be everything to do with Saturn.
Yes. What is it? Tom Kalinske tweeted it out last week, something about the N64 and Silicon Graphics. That technology had been presented to Sega of America. Yes. They liked it, and then Sega of Japan decided to go another way.
Yes.
I thought that was really interesting.
Well, it was a response to another tweet that somebody else had tweeted, which is part of it is true, which is Sega did have access to the SGI stuff, like that was Silicon Graphics did present that to them as a possibility for the follow-up to the Genesis.
Yeah.
But then the original tweet said that Tom Kalinske killed it, which isn't true.
Right.
What happened was that Sega of America wanted to go that route, and Sega of Japan said no. But of course, Sega of Japan was also already working on the Saturn at that point. So,
right.
Yeah.
I think
that would be interesting.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. It would have been great to see what Sega would have done if they had remained in hardware.
That's what I'd like to see.
If the Dreamcast had stayed viable, what would have happened? What sort of games would we be playing now? Like, would we have been talking about Shenmue 6 or Shenmue 0 instead of Yakuza 6 and 7 and Yakuza 0? Like, what other Jet Set Radio, like, weird games would we have gotten
right
from them?
Yeah.
because I think it changed right when they became a third party. They were not as experimental, and
they were for a while,
but they don't take as many risks, and it's just not the same.
I feel like that has less to do with Sega though, and more to do with the market. The market's just different. I don't think you can be as experimental as Sega was in today's market and thrive.
Well,
to be fair, they didn't thrive back then. So
the games that are being played now are nothing like what Sega was looking to create then.
No.
So what we're playing now, if Sega wanted to do something, then they need to start looking at what's top right now and start catering to that market before anyone even considers what they make interesting. I mean, the latest Sonic game came out, nobody wanted to play it, and it was because that's just not what people are playing right now. There's the diehard Sonic fans, but even they aren't really happy with the way it's gone.
Yep.
There've been more bad than good Sonic games in the past 15 years, so.
Yeah.
That's true. Let's do this one from Hacker Alias. I finally watched, who says, have you ever ordered a collector's edition, and what was it? I've got both the Spider-Man and Fallout 76 ones coming soon. $.
I will not order collector's editions anymore.
Yeah.
I used to. Still have like that stupid demon covered box thing from one of the God of War collector's editions.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And still have like I have the Metal Gear Rising Revengeance lava lamp.
Okay.
But I can't pay people to take off my hands.
What was the justification when you saw the lava lamp and you're like, I have to have that?
It's because it was a special edition. That's really it. It was a special edition of a game in a series that I enjoyed.
I have that cat helmet. I have the Halo.
I have the Halo cat helmet. Yeah,
and that I feel like I was peer pressured into buying that because that was a midnight launch.
Yeah,
and there was a lot of hype around it, and I was in line at Best Buy thinking, I'll just get the regular one, and then it's like, oh, I'm here anyway, and the collector's edition is gonna be so rare, and people are gonna
so rare.
And then of course you see it on clearance, and this happens with a lot of collector's editions these days. Now I see like the video game deals or Wario64 Twitter account like tweet out Assassin's Creed Ultimate Edition, like $35, like just 10 months after it comes out.
You can walk into any Best Buy or GameStop and just start looking at the top racks of their store, and you're like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of collector's editions just collecting dust on those.
The collecting dust edition.
Yeah. I can tell you the one that I did want, because I've pretty much stopped buying the collector's editions as well. I think the last one that I really, really wanted to get, and I was promised it and it didn't happen. I was really, really kind of bitter about that, but it was the Breath of the Wild collector's edition. That was the last one that I really wanted for the stuff that came with that, and I didn't get it, and that was a real bummer. But yeah, ever since then, I mean, you can see in the back, I have too much stuff as it is already. I've got a whole room dedicated to it, and with the collector's editions, and especially the steel cases, I just don't see where I mean, they're putting coins in them now. It's like, why do I want to collect a bunch of coins? It seems strange. I want old stuff that you used to get, like soundtracks and lithographs for, and maps and strategy guides that really kind of gave you a reason to want to sit down and just open it all up and kind of sit in front of the TV and have fun playing with all this stuff while you're playing the game. Now it's just like, oh, you get a coin and a special in-game item.
Yep. Yeah. I think the last one I bought was probably that cat helmet.
No, you bought something since then. That was a long time ago.
The BioShock. They did a BioShock one with the Big Daddy figure. I bought that, and my Big Daddy figure was broken, and I never got it replaced.
Everybody's was. That was like a huge problem that everybody had broken Big Daddies.
Yeah.
That's a good show title right there too.
Broken Big Daddies. We got a lot of options here. A lot of options. Now, how do you feel about digital games that come out with like multiple multiple levels? Like Red Dead, I think has 2 or 3. Spider-Man, I think there's a couple of different versions there. Do you, and of course, like a game like Destiny has like several levels when you're buying that. Like, do you pop for the more expensive version that comes with like boosters or extra items or any of that stuff?
No.
I think if they're going to do that, then they should put that in the game post launch as well. I mean, yeah, I don't agree. I really don't. I think that if they're going to do something like that where they have different levels, then they should offer that to everyone as an option once they bought the base game. And then if people want to buy it afterwards, they can, but it's made available all the time as opposed to having this timed limited stuff that you can only get and you have to pay real money for it. I know I've never been a big fan of that.
Yeah. Same here, although I have bought the Ultimate Edition of several digital games, I will say.
So
including Far Cry 5, which I've not played a whole lot of.
So what was that just like a fear of missing out kind of thing, or like what was the goal?
Yeah, fear of missing out. And before a game comes out, I'm usually like, all right, I'm gonna get the pack that has the special starter items, which those are never like that helpful. You always like unequip those fairly early on in a game anyway. So I shouldn't do it, but I do it for some games. Sadly, I'm part of the problem.
They did that for, what was it, Mario plus Rabbids? They had they
had a season pass.
Yeah, that's right.
They did have extra stuff with them. Yeah, the Donkey Kong levels, which feels like a nice refresh of that game. I popped for that season pass too. Yeah. Did get that. All right, let's end with this one from Hacker Alias Froyog Softserve, who says, listened to episodes 131 through 134. PlayStation Home was mentioned in one of them. The only time I spent in that dumb app was after Heavy Rain came out. My avatar just ran around shouting, Jason! What's the silliest thing you've done in an online game?
I know in Sea of Thieves we get impromptu concerts going a lot on the bow of the ship.
We play a lot of music. In
fact,
that's
pretty great.
One of the early things we did,
in the best things about that game,
in a beta, I think, was we swam to somebody's ship after we just ran aground, hopped on their ship, and just played music. And that was pretty dumb.
I had a really weird experience playing Sea of Thieves where I jumped in an open crew on a galleon with 4 other players, and one of the guys was insistent on drinking rum the entire time and just being completely drunk the entire mission, the entire voyage. And it was funny. And if it wasn't, it would have been like any other day if not for the fact that we had one French fellow who was OCD about having the ship clean. So every time this guy would puke on the deck, this French guy in his wonderful accent would run around calling names at this guy, telling him that he's a cretin and he's scum, and he'd go and he'd jump off the ship, get a bucket of water, go up the ladder, and then throw the bucket of water on the ship to wash the puke away. And I don't even know if that works, but it was like this cat and mouse game between the guy that was completely drunk, stumbling around, puking on people and puking on the ship, and this French guy who's just completely angry at this other person, just yelling at her. He's like, "What are you doing? Stop throwing puke everywhere! You're puking everywhere! It's disgusting! You're a horrible human being. Why are you doing this?" And I wish I could say that I had a hand in that, but that was really comical, and I'm really impressed with the drunk guy for sticking with it for as long as he did.
Nice.
That's pretty great. Greg, you got anything, or just the Sea of Thieves?
No, that's the best I got. Sorry. Okay. I don't play a lot of online games.
Okay. Actually, let's close out with this one. Let's do this one really quick. Hacker Alias Jerf Solo says, With Bethesda sending a cease and desist to an Amazon seller for selling a sealed game as new, do you think this will force a store like GameStop to stop opening new games to put on shelves and continue to mark them as new?
No.
Of course not.
Because they're partners, right? They're retail partners. That's different.
And wasn't this a thing where the guy said it was new and it really wasn't? Like,
I don't even know.
This seems like an isolated case, not like a thing that's going to become a big to-do.
I don't know if this is still policy or not. It was way back. I mean, we're talking 16 years ago, but at least when I was an assistant store manager for a GameStop, when we did have just the one copy left, that was like it was our box copy, and the disc was in the sleeve and it was in the drawer. If somebody did decide that they wanted to buy that, then we would actually discount the 10% off of the cost of the game to make sure. And that was just kind of like a mea culpa, like, sorry, we don't have a regular copy for you. If you do want this final copy, because it is the last one, we did have to gut it to have the display case on the shelf. I'll knock off 10% as a way of saying thanks for picking us to come in, and you don't have to worry about the tax on this. It's on us.
That's fair.
Huh. I worked at Babbage's 25 years ago, and we did not do that.
CJ's old.
I'm old. No, and we also did. I don't think they do this anymore. They allowed employees to check out games.
They do not allow that anymore. I don't think
they do not allow that anymore. No, but back
shame.
in the Genesis and Super Nintendo and Sega CD and Saturn days, they did allow that. So yeah, you could basically take a new copy home, play it. You were an employee, and then bring it back. And I'm pretty sure we sold those as new.
Yeah, that was how I got to play Time Splitters. Was I checked out the copy and I went home and I tried it out, and it was great because I could actually speak to the game and let people know what I thought of it when I got it in. But
that was the
reason they allowed that, right?
Yeah, that's why they had that whole thing. Yeah.
Which I think it's still really important. I mean, in a industry where there are so many games coming out, if you don't have good knowledge about what the game is and you have to trust other people's reviews, plagiarized or not, then it feels like you can't really tell someone whether or not you think it's a good game right at that moment. You just have to base it off of what other people say.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's where I think we should end it. Alrighty, and that is our show for this week. Thank you very much for listening. If you have a question for us or would like to comment on something you heard, you can direct that to @P1 Podcast on the Twitters, or you can go to our internet website at player1podcast.com. There you'll find our contact information. You'll find Generation 16 episodes.
Check out the latest episode.
Techno Cop.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed. You'll find what else? A link to our Discord server where we talk about video games and plenty of other stuff too. And we got one of them old-timey message boards. If you're into that as well, you can sign up and talk about this episode with us and our other listeners.
If you would like to subscribe to the Player One Podcast, you can do so by going to player1podcast.com or to the Apple iPod app. Podcast app.
You can go to Apple Podcasts. Give us a rating, 5 stars, please.
Please give us a rating. Not based on how I describe the app, though.
Yeah, or just write us a review, because that helps. That really does.
Or you can go to iTunes.
Or you can do that. Yeah.
And buy the Player One Podcast app.
Is that even updated anymore? I don't even know.
Yeah, it is, I think.
Pretty much don't even bother.
It's $1.99.
Cheap.
Thank you. Whatever Phil says, one touch communication with us via email, Twitter, et cetera, what have you. And hey, Android cell phone, telephone users, you can also find the Player One Podcast app for your listening device on the Apple, iTunes, Amazon, Google something.
You're bad at this.
For that same $2.30 Canadian.
Also cheap.
I think it's more than that, actually.
It probably is.
Probably closer to $3.
It probably is. Yeah.
You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at P1 Podcast. You can catch us live on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Eastern.
8 p.m. Eastern.
On YouTube /P1
How many weeks have you been doing this?
It's 9 o'clock here.
I guess.
At 9 p.m. Atlantic.
Okay, there you go.
You figure out what that is.
Yeah.
9:30 in Newfoundland.
Uh-huh. What else?
Where we broadcast live.
YouTube.com/P1 Podcast.
If you want to pay for this bullshit, and why would you? You can support us. Seriously, though, you can support us at patreon.com/P1 Podcast. That's the most important part of this.
Sure.
Please consider supporting us. This is a free show. It'll always be free. It always has been free. But it ain't free to make. It ain't free to host.
True.
It just ain't free. So please, if you like what you've heard, consider supporting us over at patreon.com.
And if you do, you get a whole second show each week. We do an after show quiz, which we'll be doing right after this with Captain Logan.
There you go.
Helps keep CJ swimming in collector's editions.
There you go.
Yeah.
Digital collector's editions.
Digital collectors.
Not even real collector's editions.
The worst kind. Yeah.
Digital collector's editions. Yeah. That more or less covers everything. Hey, Captain Logan.
Yes.
Tell the internet about you, where they can find you.
Oh, well, you can always find me on Keelhauled Podcast through iTunes or Apple Podcasts, whatever you want to call it, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify now. If not, you can always find me over at Twitter at CAPT_LOGUN. Or you can reach out to me on my email, CAPTLOGUN@gmail.com.
Hey, and thanks so much for coming on the show this week.
Thank you.
Heck
Pleasure.
yeah.
I wasn't listening to that hour of Sea of Thieves talk, but I'm sure it was.
It wasn't
great.
an hour. It wasn't.
It was a long
Riveting.
time.
But I think I'll take a break from talking about Sea of Thieves on this podcast for a while.
I don't believe that for a second. CJ,
Yes.
thank you for hosting again this week.
Thank you, Greg, for putting up with some Sea of Thieves talk.
No problem. And hey, listeners, thank you for being so awesome and so dedicated and listening to us every week.
Yes.
We hope
And
to see
Logan,
you all
don't
again.
stop recording.
And don't stop recording. We hope to see you all again next week.